After it comes, yeah, play fast forward. Okay, stop. Okay.
Why haven't you given interviews
The
or
voice of
you
Jaime
don't want to talk publicly about what happened to you 20 years ago?
Willi, warum geben Sie
I
keine
translate,
Interviews?
and at the
Warum
end,
reden
after he
Sie
spoke,
so
I
ungern
translate
über
into
das, was
English
vor
for you, so you can
23
understand it.
Jahren oder vor 20 Jahren mit Ihnen geschah?
Meine Aufgabe ist nicht, selbst an die Öffentlichkeit zu treten und mich bestaunen zu lassen, mich wie ein Tier begutachten zu lassen. Ich bin kein zoologisches Tier und so weiter und so fort. Meine Aufgabe liegt eben darin, die Dinge, die Berichte, die ich erhalte und die Mission, die ich habe, zu erfüllen, die Dinge aufzuschreiben, zu veröffentlichen und auf diese Art und Weise an die Öffentlichkeit zu treten, aber nicht in eigener Person. Und andererseits ist es eben auch so, wenn man an die Öffentlichkeit tritt, dann beginnen die Leute einem hochzuheben. Sie, wie wir in der Schweiz sagen, sie himmeln einem an. Und das ist nicht das, was ich gebrauchen kann und nicht das, was ich will.
Okay, I translate here from directly. We asked him why he doesn't go public, why he doesn't give interviews or something like this, why he doesn't lecture. And he said, first of all, it is not his mission. He doesn't want people to admire him. He doesn't want people to look at him like a zoological animal, like something strange. His mission is to write down the messages he received and not to play any special role or to be admired or whatever. He doesn't want this. That's why he is keeping himself, his own person, in the background. And that's a very humble, normal point of view. And actually he lives a very normal life besides of being a contactee.
Ich muss das so sagen, die Menschen, die die Dinge übernehmen, was ich bringe von den Plejadiern oder einfach aus der Lehre des Geistes heraus, das hilft den Menschen weiterzudenken, sich zu evolutionieren und einen besseren Weg des Lebens zu finden, die Tatsachen
to evolve and to find the meaning of life by themselves. They are not doctrines or whatever, but they put people on the path and they are helps and instructions for people. And that's why he is doing it, why he's spreading it and publishing it.
And are you happy with the experience after 20 years? Are you happy with what happened, or you think it was a failure?
Ich denke, dass alles, was sich abgespielt hat, was sich zugetragen hat in Bezug auf die Plejadier und in Erfüllung der Mission zusammen mit all den Menschen, die rund um mich sind und mit mir arbeiten, hat es sich sehr gelohnt. Und
it was worth to do. We asked, are you happy with what happened in the last 20, 25 years? And he says, yes. If I reflect what happened to all the people around me, the people who got inspired, I think it was worth to do it.
Negativ reingekommen sind, Misserfolge gebracht hätten oder dergleichen. Es ist genau das Gegenteil der Fall.
And even when we were attacked, the opposite happened of what the attackers want. And more people learned about the case and the teachings and looked at it. So all the attacks had an opposite outcome.
A positive way, a way which brought joy and support. And generally when something negative came out from outside, it always turned to become good at the end. So generally everything went well.
Es ist also nicht so, denn wenn Angriffe von außen kamen, dass für uns und für unsere Mission irgendwelche negativen...
If we were attacked from outside, it didn't mean a negative influence.
Es hat sich immer zum Erfolg gewandelt.
But it turned to the positive always, to the success always. As harder we were attacked, as more people we reached.
As more we were attacked, as more success we had.
Or very.
Es bedingt einfach dass man eben bei der Sache bleibt
It's
und sich
important to
nicht
stay behind what you're doing and what you believe
unterdrücken
in
lässt, dass
and
man
what you
sich nicht
stand
ins
for,
Boxhorn jagen lässt, wenn
and
Angriffe
not
kommen
to be
von außen,
distracted,
sondern dass man einfach auf seiner Linie bleibt.
but simply to stay upon your line.
Stand behind what you believe in and don't become discouraged by attacks from outside.
Die waren niemals hier droben, die kennen mich überhaupt nicht, die haben niemals ein Wort
The
mit
people
mir
who attack
gesprochen. Die
him,
haben
they have
einfach
never
alle
been
Dinge
up
aus
there,
der
they
Luft
never
gegriffen.
talked to him,
Oder
they
von
never met him in
anderen
person,
Negierern
they never interviewed the
irgendwelche
eyewitnesses,
Dinge
what is a
gehört
matter
und
of
dann
fact.
weiter negiert.
And how can they write about me if they don't never met me and don't know what is really going on?
Exactly. And either, invented the attacks or took it over from other people who attacked me before.
And many
but
of
they
the
never cared to investigate.
Meier debunkers just copy
They
from
even
each
said
other.
that you cry and you accepted that everything was a hoax.
Die Gegner behaupten sogar,
They even claim, the debunkers even claim that Billy Meier confessed, but it's a hoax, and this is his reaction, he is laughing.
Ein Wort davon.
Not a single word is true.
Well, that's what they say. But still, we know that all the analysis, the metal, the movies, the pictures, the witnesses, the sounds, everything so far has stand all these attacks.
Yeah, I know.
And after all this experience and the attacks, would you do it again?
all den Erfahrungen, den Angriffen wirklich wieder machen.
Genau dasselbe.
I would do exactly the
Ich
same again.
würde, wenn ich nochmals vorn beginnen
If
wüsste
I
und
would have to
alles
start
so
from
wüsste,
very
wie
beginning
ich es
again,
heute weiß, ich würde rein nichts ändern
I
daran.
wouldn't
Ich würde
change
auch mein
anything.
gesamtes Leben so leben, wie
I would
ich es
live all my
bisher
life
gelebt habe.
just the way
Und auch in Bezug
I lived
auf
it.
die Mission, da würde ich alles genau gleich machen.
In regard to my mission, I would do exactly what I did.
And I would do exactly the same, even if I would have known everything.
I wouldn't change
before.
anything.
Now,
in der Form zu bearbeiten und in der Form mit ihr zu leben, wie es notwendig ist, in positiv ausgeglichenem Rahmen, dann zerstört er seine Erde nicht. Es heißt seit
It's about the question if man will destroy the planet. He says if man learns to live in harmony with creation and according to the laws of creation, he will not destroy the planet. All the rumors about doomsday in the year 2000, the end of the world, whatever, is rubbish. The earth will not come to an end. Even if some catastrophes happen and will happen and always happen, even if some wars will start, it does not mean the end of the world. The end of the world will come in some distant future through to the sun, which is becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. And one day, automatically, and it's an astronomical fact, the sun will exterminate life on Earth, and this is when man will go to other planets and settle on other planets. But this is an astronomical fact. But before it, there will be no end of the world. So do not believe in doomsday prophets and maniacs.
Späteste Zeit, wo sich der Erdenmensch irgendwelche andere Welten sucht, wo er sich wieder ansiedelt.
April 1981. Okay.
Es sind also böse, negative und falsche
They're bad,
Zukunftsvisionen, die
negative,
verbreitet werden,
wrong
dass der Mensch
future
die Erde,
visions
dermaßen
are the ones who
zerstört,
claim that man will destroy the
dass
planet in a
das
way
Leben
that
nicht mehr
no life can
lebenswert
exist on it
wäre.
anymore.
Auch wenn der Mensch
This
sehr
is
viel
not
Negatives
what the future of
tut,
Earth will be,
umweltschlecht
according to the
beeinflusst
Pleiadians.
und so weiter und so fort. Aber es führt nicht dazu, dass es eine Weltzerstörung dadurch gibt.
There will be many bad things, but not the destruction of the world.
Will destroy the planet. Also, he creates a great damage. He will not destroy the planet.
but extinction, we're creating extinction on animals and plants.
Okay, I'll show you quickly where Billy is living. This is Hinterschmied Rüti. This is in the winter, in February, in a winter evening, beautiful landscape. This is the house where he lives. And you have visit from our investigation, Jaime Maussan, and these are some of the eyewitnesses which you will meet later. or hear about later, listen to later. And here she describes where she had a sighting. Rooney describes where she had a sighting. Rooney is the name of the lady. And you see some images from our investigation. The difference between us and the debunkers is that we really went there and we really spoke to the eyewitnesses. This is Billy's farmhouse where he and some of his friends live together, because Billy, as a contactee, is working for his mission all the time. Stop the image. Okay, she comes later. And he is a contactee, so he can't, have a regular job and a regular income. So some of his friends who have normal jobs just rented the house and they live there together. Billy's group has the name Free Interest Group for Spiritual and Ufological Studies, what means in German the acronym FIGO, for Freie Interessengemeinschaft für Geisteswissenschaftliche und Ufologiestudien, which is really not what Karl Korff claims it is. It is really not a cult, because there's no cult in the world which would call itself Free Interest Group for Ufological and Philosophical Studies. There's no cult at all. There's no doctrine. Billy doesn't want anybody to believe in anything. What the Palladian teachings are all about is that every single human being must recognize that its purpose in life, its meaning of life, is evolution by recognition. Evolution by recognition, and not by believing anything. Billy is the biggest non-believer I never met. He doesn't, he doesn't teach any doctrine, and he doesn't want anybody to believe anything. This is not what the Palladians teach them to do. Man has to evolve, each and every one by himself. And so all the claims of the debunkers are absolutely without any fundament in reality. And do we have the film now? Can we see now the wedding cake? Okay, now we watch the wedding cake. It is not April 54, but it's April 81. Okay. 4th of April 1981, near Hinwil, the wedding cake ship, and that's what we watch right now. And then we come to the eyewitnesses we interviewed. No, this is wrong. No. It's not a Billy Meier film. April the 4th, 1981. This is Hagen, Germany. It has nothing to do with Billy. Okay, now it comes. Auenberg, Eck, Switzerland, near Hinwil, his original place where he lived. And we play it with audio, and I hope now it's in a better quality. And we can play the audio. I know this has audio. It's on a tape called UFOs to Footage Archive Part 1. And you see the disturbances. The disturbances are caused by the ship. I never saw a trash can lit causing any electromagnetic disturbances on cameras. But I mean, maybe it's new technology. Here you clearly see the ship, and you clearly see the distance. And because it's hovering there, and then, it's a little bit also hiding, because here in the valley, of course, people are living, there's streets and everything. The area is not always uninhabited. Actually, Switzerland is a very inhabited country. So to find a place where you can do any demonstration flight or anything unrecognized is very, very difficult. But you hear Billy talking to, actually, interesting thing is, one of the space people are standing, Quetzal is standing next to him, and he is talking to him and says, look, can you make it flying around? Can you order them to fly a little bit? And for certain reasons, they don't do. And you hear 2 jets flying over it, jets of the Swiss Air Force, who already have it on radar. And we think this is the reason why the ship is really hiding behind the tree, to be unrecognized by these aerial surveillance which we have, by people down there. And they had to interrupt the shooting 2 or 3 times because people started to walk by. It has an audio, I know this, because I produced the film, so I don't know why we don't listen to any audio, but... This is not the original audio, but anyway.
Why isn't it wobbling like the other one?
Because it's a different ship, it has a different technology, and this one, as I say, it is just hovering close to the tree. I don't know why it is not wobbling, but you know, it is very close to the ground. It's a different ship, a different type, with a different technology. And here we made an enlargement, so you see it really clear, and you see it's something like a 3-story ship. Okay, we can stop now. We can stop this, and we continue with the other tape, because what we come to now in a moment are the eyewitnesses. I want to explain one thing. One of the main arguments of Karl Korff and the debunkers is that Billy wants to look like a prophet. That's why he is wearing a beard, a long white beard. These people never have been to Switzerland. This is a part of the tradition in Switzerland, that people living in the mountains, like farmers and so on, shepherds, are wearing long beards. Billy is a very modernized person from Switzerland, a very modernized Swiss, by wearing jeans and a normal shirt. They usually have the traditional customs, but besides this, it is just normal. Men in this age, in this area, are wearing long beards which become white sooner or later, so there's nothing unusual about it. So if we would show you images of any Swiss folklore club, you would have a Billy Meier lookalike contest. All right, so now we come to the eyewitnesses. And this is Bernadette Brandt, who is a lithograph, and she is talking about her encounter. Can we play it to the beginning of it so I can translate simultaneously? And I will read it. She will be in the original German in the background, and I translate it for you at the very same time. And she says, I was present at a contact in Schönenberg near Einsiedeln in Switzerland. We were waiting for Billy, and suddenly he stood in front of me. It was heavily raining in this evening, but we could just see how the very first raindrops were touching his jacket, when at the same time we were totally wet because it was really raining cats and dogs. He stood in front of us in the first moment, totally dry, in the biggest rain you can imagine, and he explained us, but he was directly beamed down from the ship. At another time, we saw a night demonstration of 6 ships, and I had a lot of UFO sightings together with Billy. Bernadette Brandt, 49 years old, and she is a lithograph. This gentleman is Engelberg Wächter, who is a printer, and he says, one time Billy asked me if I could drive him to a contact. We drove with a car. Billy constantly gave me instructions, and suddenly he said, now you can stop. And he went out, and I waited. It was quite cold. He disappeared in a forest way, and I looked around, and suddenly I saw something flickering about 300 feet away from me in the direction of the forest. In the first moment, I believed it could be something extraterrestrial, but then I doubted. I said, maybe it's just a farmer who is looking for his cows. I was sitting back in the car, and I saw again this flickering. I wanted to know it, so I directed my car on this point, and I saw the flickering the last time, and I turned on the searchlight of the car, and I had an extraterrestrial being just in the middle of the light of the searchlight of the car. This was the first time when I saw an extraterrestrial. It was a tall man. He had a kind of cape and a flickering spacesuit, highly reflective spacesuit. He was suddenly standing still when he was running out of the light beam, and I drove back with my car, and suddenly he had disappeared. When Billy came back from the contact, he was asking me laughingly why I was disturbing harmless passers-by. This was Quetzal, his extraterrestrial contact person. This is Engelberg Wächter, 66 years old, and he's a printer. He tells another story. And one time I reported something on the street to the center, and Billy was walking by, and I said, oh, he is walking to a contact. A short moment later, I heard a loud, energetic sound, and I believed, oh my God, now they're beaming him up. About half an hour later, I had to look on this meadow again, and I looked on it again and again. I observed it for something like 10, 20 minutes, and suddenly, out of nowhere, Billy was standing here, like if you have torn a wheel away, and there he was. From one second to the other, he was just standing there. So this is another of his beaming experiences where people see Billy just appearing out of nowhere after a contact. So he had an extraterrestrial encounter, and he had this beaming experience. And several times, he says too, several times I saw beam ships when I drove him to contacts, bright ships, luminous ships, which were flying, coming from the skies and disappearing in the forest in the direction where Billy went, where Billy disappeared. Okay, can you play fast forward a little bit? Swiss German is a little bit slower than English. Okay, the next man is Silvano Lehmann. Silvano Lehmann is a waiter. He is 37 years of age. The same okay, this is Silvano, and he said, I experienced 4 assassination attempts on Billy. And this is really what made me thinking, because who wants to kill the man for 4 times? But I also had UFO experiences. One time in the year 1982, Billy called me, look, there's a ship hanging in the cloud. And I saw it totally clear and big. It was a typical beam ship like on the pictures at a bright daylight in the afternoon at about 4 o'clock p.m. And I saw it for 2 minutes until an aircraft appeared, and then it was flying away, shooting away into the clouds and disappeared.
Beim helllichten Tag, ungefähr am Nachmittag um 4 Uhr. Das war dann 1 Minute, 2 sichtbar, und dann ist ein Flugzeug erschienen am Horizont. The
next eyewitness to see after him is Atlantis Meier, 28 years old. He is a car mechanic. He is one of the sons of Billy, the brother of Methuselah. And he says, I was with my father many times when he went out for contacts. I remember how we saw the beam ships and how later we went to the contact places and we saw the landing tracks. I was very young at that time, but I remember how one day I was playing outside in front of the house and looked over the landscape and suddenly saw a ship hovering at the sky. This was hovering there for 10-15 seconds, and then it suddenly disappeared. I was painting it at that time. I have a very clear memory, of what happened, and it was at broad daylight. So you see, the whole family testified in favor of the father, whatever the mother of both Methuselah and Atlantis might claim after the divorce. All the sons testified in favor of them. Can you play a little fast forward?
Draußen auf dem Hausplatz stand.
Okay, this lady is Eva Bieri. She's the secretary. She's 43 years of age, and she says, I saw several times UFOs together with Billy in the night sky, and in the year of 1980, in the June of 1980, I listened to the sounds of the spacecraft. This was an afternoon when all of us went up to the Cadillac, which is a place where Billy took several pictures just above Hinterschmidt-Rüti, and Billy went about 150 meters or 450 feet away from us, and he made the audio recording of the sounds of the spaceship, of the beam ships, and we were standing on the way to this area, and we listened to it, and it was so loud that a lot of farmers and walkers from the area around was attracted by it and listened to it too. Another time, a couple of years ago, I saw together with Billy quite a big ship which was flying zigzag at the night sky. We will hear the sounds of the beam ship later. Methuselah will talk about his experience and he will play it for you, so you will hear the actual sounds of a Palladium beam ship. This gentleman tells a very interesting story because he is a friend from Billy from the very beginning on, since the early 1970s. And Jakobus Bertschinger, 48 years old, he's a driver now, and he tells the story how Billy was taken by the Palladians on his big journey through the universe, we have to say. And he says Billy left the house in the evening, and he came back in the morning with, and I said, Billy, what happened to you? You have a beard like from 5 days. This was in 1975, and Billy was clearly shaven, clear-cut shaven, okay? He didn't have a beard in 1975 when he was still a young man, or quite young at least. The beard grew later. And so he shaved himself before he went out to the contact, and he came back in the morning, and he had a beard from 5 days. And Billy told him the story that he was taken on a trip through the universe. We will just... Okay, yeah. And he says, another time I went to Barrettsville and I drove Billy to a contact, and I was asked to wait in my car for further instructions, and then I saw how the ship was appearing from the forest clearing and was shooting over us. It was a fantastic event, and I was deeply impressed. And the last witness we have here is this lovely lady, Brunhilde Koye, and she tells the story how one night she spent in a wagon, in a motorhome, and when she visited Billy, and in the night she heard some footsteps, and she walked out and looked, and she heard something inside of her like, stop. And she stopped, but she looked around the corner and she saw a tall person, a tall being with white hair and a beard. It was not Billy, because Billy at that time still had dark hair and didn't have the long beard yet. And I had the feeling that it was something very special. This being had a white garment and was surrounded by light, and I felt a great warmth. And later Billy told me it was Ptah, one of the extraterrestrials. And this lady, Brunhilde Koye, is a businesswoman, expert businesswoman, 64 years of age, a very educated, very respected person. I know her personally, and I highly respect her, and there's no way that these people, these good and credible people, would ever lie. Now we have the last witness, and I think you want to hear it because this is very interesting. It's about, this is Erwin Mörner. He is a UFO researcher from Winter to Switzerland. And he investigated, he checked the picture Billy Meier took in March 1976 of a beam ship and a Mirage jet of the Swiss Air Force. And he investigated it, and I read to you what happened to him because he learned about the Swiss intelligence surveillance of the case. And on a UFO Congress, I met a man who was at the Air Force, and we started to talk, and he told me he was from the Air Force, and I asked him after the picture, and he confirmed that the picture is real and that we know everything about the context of Billy Meier. I met with this man several times, and one time he admitted to me that he belongs to the Army Intelligence, the Swiss Army Intelligence. The next time he brought a big black file, which he opened. It was a document file, a dossier, and he asked me to read it. And on the third page was the story about the Mirage meeting and photographing the Palladium beam ship. And it said, the file said, who knows about this case must keep it for himself. He cannot reveal it to the public. It is a top secret. And I asked I asked the person what he thinks about Billy Meier, and he replied, but at the military we know everything about it, but it is true, but the people should not know about it. Later he showed me files about my person, and I learned but they are surveilling me. They knew everything about where I was at that time, and I obviously was under surveillance from the Swiss military intelligence because I investigated the Billy Meier case. And this is Erwin Mörner, a UFO researcher from Zurich, actually from Lexicon in the state of Zurich, in the canton of Zurich, who testified and confirmed what Wendell Stevens always said.